For 8 months, 14-year-old Janae Williams carried a tray across the street every single morning. Scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice, and coffee. 6:45 a.m., without fail, to the wheelchair-bound veteran who lived alone in the house with the overgrown lawn. She was black, poor, living with her grandmother in a neighborhood where people minded their own business. He was white, 71 years old, covered in scars nobody asked about. Then one Thursday morning, everything shattered. 6 military vehicles pulled up outside Janae's house. Soldiers in dress uniforms. A general stepping out of a black SUV. When her grandmother opened the door, still in her bathrobe, her face went pale. "Ma'am," the general said, his voice heavy with something between grief and awe, "we need to talk about what your granddaughter did for Colonel James Pritchard." James? The man across the street. Her grandmother's hand went to her chest. Did something happen to him? The general's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, what happened is that a 14-year-old child did more for one of this nation's most decorated soldiers than the entire Department of Defense did in 20 years. He paused, looking past her to where Janae stood frozen in the hallway. "And yesterday, the colonel left instructions that if anything happened to him, we were to tell you the truth. All of it." Janae Williams woke up at 5:30 every morning to the sound of her grandmother's gospel music playing softly from the kitchen radio. Their house was small, a 2-bedroom rental in East Oakland that had seen better days. The carpet was worn thin in the hallways. The kitchen linoleum had cracks that caught dirt no matter how many times Grandma Ruth scrubbed. The windows rattled when BART trains passed 3 blocks away. But it was clean. Grandma Ruth made sure of that. She'd raised Janae since she was 4, after Janae's mother disappeared into the fog of addiction and her father went to prison for something Janae still didn't fully understand. Drugs, probably. Or robbery. The story changed depending on who was telling it. Money was always the invisible weight in the room. Grandma Ruth worked as a home health aide, visiting elderly clients 6 days a week. She made $16 an hour, which sounded like more than it was once you subtracted rent, $1,200 for their small house, utilities, food, and the payment plan for the medical debt from Grandma Ruth's diabetes medication. Janae had learned to be small with her needs. She wore thrift store clothes without complaint. She did her homework at the public library because their internet was spotty. She babysat for neighbors when she could, $10 an hour under the table, saving every penny for the community college fund Grandma Ruth kept in an envelope taped inside the flour canister. The morning routine never changed. Janae would help her grandmother make breakfast, scrambled eggs or oatmeal, toast with margarine, coffee that was more creamer than caffeine. They'd eat together at the small kitchen table, Grandma Ruth asking about school, Janae asking about which clients her grandmother was seeing that day. Then Grandma Ruth would leave for her first appointment, and Janae would get ready for school. That's when she'd started noticing him. The house across the street had been empty for years. Boarded windows, foreclosure notice that eventually faded in the sun, weeds taking over what had once been a lawn. Neighborhood kids said it was haunted. Drug dealers had used it for a while until the police cleared them out. Then one day in early February, someone moved in. A white man, older, in a wheelchair. Janae watched from her window as a beat-up van pulled up, and the man wheeled himself out using a portable ramp. No movers. No family. Just him and 3 cardboard boxes. Over the next week, she'd see him occasionally. Always in the wheelchair. Sometimes on the porch, staring at nothing. Once, struggling to get his wheelchair up the small step at his front door, his face red with effort and frustration. Nobody in the neighborhood talked to him. In East Oakland, you didn't ask questions. You definitely didn't approach a white man who'd moved into the hood for reasons nobody understood. Probably hiding from something. Probably trouble. But Janae noticed things. She noticed he never had visitors. She noticed his trash bin stayed empty week after week. She noticed the one time she saw him at the corner store, buying a can of soup and a loaf of bread with loose change counted out on the counter, the cashier's impatient sigh as he fumbled with quarters. She noticed he was alone. It was Grandma Ruth who finally said something. They were eating breakfast on a Tuesday, 3 weeks after the man had moved in, when her grandmother looked out the kitchen window and went quiet. "That man across the street," Grandma Ruth said softly. He's struggling. Janae looked up from her eggs. You think he's okay? I don't know, baby. But I know what alone looks like. Grandma Ruth set down her coffee cup. And I know what pride looks like too. Pride that won't ask for help even when you're drowning. They sat in silence for a moment. We have extra eggs this morning, Grandma Ruth said. You have time before school? Janae understood immediately. She grabbed a plastic container from the cabinet, spooned half her eggs into it, added 2 pieces of toast, poured coffee into a thermos her grandmother used for work. What if he doesn't want it? Janae asked. Then he says no thank you, and you come home. Grandma Ruth smiled. But baby, you'd be surprised how many people are just waiting for someone to see them. Janae crossed the street with the container warm in her hands. The morning was cold, that Oakland February cold that got into your bones. She could see her breath. The man's porch was worse up close. Rotting wood, paint peeling in long strips. His wheelchair was parked near the door. He was in it, wearing a heavy coat despite the broken heater she could smell wasn't working. His left leg was missing below the knee. His right hand had scars that looked like burns, shiny and pink against his weathered skin. He watched her approach with the wary eyes of someone expecting the worst. Excuse me, sir, Janae said, stopping at the bottom of the porch steps. My grandmother and I made too much breakfast. Would you like some? He stared at her for a long moment. Then at the container in her hands. His jaw worked like he was chewing on words he couldn't quite spit out. You don't have to, he said finally. His voice was rough and used. Keep it for yourself. We really did make too much, Janae lied. It'll just go to waste. Another long silence. Then, slowly he nodded. Janae climbed the steps carefully, testing each board. She handed him the container. His scarred hand shook slightly as he took it. Thank you, he whispered. I'm James. James Pritchard. Janae Williams. She pointed across the street. I live right there with my grandma. James opened the container. The smell of eggs seemed to hit him like a physical thing. His eyes got wet. When's the last time you ate? Janae asked quietly. Yesterday. Day before maybe. He looked at her. Things have been tight. Janae's chest ached. Would it be okay if I brought you breakfast tomorrow too? James's face crumpled. He turned away quickly, wiping his eyes with the back of his scarred hand. You don't have to do that. I know. But would it be okay? He was quiet for so long she thought he might say no. Then, barely audible, hiss. That would be okay. The next morning, Janae brought eggs, toast, and coffee. The morning after that, oatmeal with brown sugar and a banana. By the end of the first week, it was routine. Grandma Ruth never asked Janae to stop, even though it meant their already tight food budget got tighter. Instead, she started making a little extra every morning, packing it carefully into containers, making sure James got a full meal. Baby, she said one night, watching Janae do homework at the kitchen table, you've got a good heart. Don't ever let this world make you hard. Janae looked up. Grandma, can we afford this? Can we afford not to? Grandma Ruth smiled. That man's somebody's son. Might be somebody's father. And right now, he's alone. We'll figure out the money. They figured it out by Grandma Ruth picking up an extra client on Saturdays. By Janae babysitting more. By both of them eating a little less so James could eat a little more. And slowly, over weeks, James started to change. By the end of March, James was waiting for her every morning. Not just sitting on the porch, but actually waiting, his face turned toward her house, a small smile appearing when she emerged with the breakfast container. They'd talk for a few minutes before Janae had to leave for school. Short conversations at first. Weather. How he slept. Whether he needed anything from the store. But gradually, the conversations deepened. You're in 9th grade? James asked one morning, sipping the coffee she'd brought. Yes, sir. At Oakland Tech. You like it? Janae shrugged. It's okay. I like my English class. Mrs. Morrison actually cares, you know? She stays after school to help kids who are struggling. James nodded slowly. Good teachers matter. I had a teacher once, Mr. Caldwell, changed my whole life. I was headed nowhere, angry kid from nowhere. He saw something in me I didn't see in myself. What did he see? Janae asked. Discipline. Focus. He was a Marine, kept telling me I was wasting my potential getting into fights. James smiled at the memory. He's the one who convinced me to enlist. You were in the military? Army. Long time ago now. His expression clouded. Different life. Janae wanted to ask more, but something in his face stopped her. Instead, she asked, Do you need anything today? I'm babysitting after school, but I could stop by the store. I'm okay, James said. Then quieter, Thank you though, Janae, for asking. For all of this. You're welcome, Mr. James. One morning in April, Janae arrived to find James struggling. His wheelchair had a flat tire, and he was trying to pump it with a hand pump, his scarred fingers fumbling with the nozzle. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool morning. Let me help, Janae said, setting down the breakfast. I got it. His voice was tight with frustration. I know you do. But it's faster with two people. She knelt down, held the nozzle steady while he pumped. Together, they got the tire inflated in 2 minutes. James sat back, breathing hard. I hate this, he said suddenly. Being useless. You're not useless. I can't even fix my own damn wheelchair. Janae stood up, brushed off her knees. Mr. James, you got that tire working. I just held something. That's not useless. That's just asking for help when you need it. He looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. You're wise beyond your years, Miss Williams. My grandma says I'm an old soul. Your grandma's right. Over the next few weeks, Janae noticed more. James's mail piled up in his broken mailbox, mostly bills with red, past due stamps. His house had no electricity sometimes, the lights dark in the evenings. His clothes were the same 3 outfits rotated endlessly. One morning, she found him on the porch with his head in his hands. Mr. James? She set the breakfast down carefully. What's wrong? Nothing, sweetheart. Just a bad morning. Is it the bills? He looked up, surprised. How did you? I see them in your mailbox. The red ones. James laughed, but it sounded broken. Sharp eyes. He rubbed his face. The benefits got cut. Some paperwork issue they can't seem to fix. I've been calling for weeks, but nobody can tell me why or when it'll get resolved. How much do you need? More than you have, baby girl. Don't worry about it. I'll figure something out. But Janae did worry. She went to the library after school and researched VA benefits, disability claims, bureaucracy. Most of it didn't make sense, legal language and form numbers and processes that seemed designed to confuse. She printed out what she could, brought it to James the next morning along with breakfast. I don't know if this helps, she said, handing him the papers. But I looked up some stuff about appeals. There's a number here for veterans advocacy groups. They help for free. James stared at the papers. His hands were shaking. You did this for me? It's just research. I'm good at research. He set the papers down carefully, like they were precious. Janae, I need to tell you something. She waited. I was in special operations. Did things I can't talk about, places I can't name. When I came back, I wasn't right. PSD they call it. Lost my leg in my last deployment. Lost my family when I couldn't get my head straight after. His voice cracked. I've been on my own for 17 years. And in all that time, you're the first person who's treated me like I'm human. Janae's eyes filled with tears. You are human, Mr. James. Sometimes I forget. He looked at her. Thank you for reminding me. That afternoon, Janae used the phone number she'd found. She called the Veterans Advocacy Group, explained Mr. James's situation to a kind-voiced woman named Patricia who promised to look into it. 3 days later, a lawyer from the group called James directly. A week after that, his benefits were reinstated. Back pay was coming. Someone had made an error in his file, coded him as deceased. He'd been fighting ghosts for 6 months. When James told Janae, he cried. Actually cried, sitting on his porch with breakfast getting cold beside him. You saved my life, he said. You know that? I was about 2 weeks away from giving up entirely. Janae didn't know what to say to that. She just sat beside him, quiet, until he stopped crying. By May, their morning routine was sacred. Janae brought breakfast. They talked for 15, sometimes 20 minutes. She'd tell him about school, about her dreams of becoming a nurse like Grandma Ruth wanted, or maybe a teacher like Mrs. Morrison. James would tell her stories. Carefully edited stories, she realized. Nothing classified. But stories about the men he'd served with, the places he'd seen, the lessons he'd learned. The most important thing in combat, he said one morning, isn't being the toughest or the smartest. It's knowing who has your back. That's what keeps you alive. Do you miss it? Janae asked. The army? I miss the brotherhood. I miss having a purpose. He looked at his missing leg. But this body can't do that work anymore. You have a purpose now, Janae said. You're my friend. That's a purpose. James smiled. You're my friend too, kiddo. Best one I've got. The neighborhood started noticing. Mrs. Chun from next door asked Grandma Ruth about it. Your girl, she feeds that white man every morning? She does, Grandma Ruth said simply. But he's not family. Neither were we once, Mrs. Chen. Then you brought us soup when Janae had the flu last year. Made us family then. Mrs. Chen considered this, then nodded. The girl has a good heart. Like her grandmother. But not everyone was kind about it. Some kids at school heard somehow. Started making comments. Janae got herself a sugar daddy, Marcus Johnson said in the cafeteria one day, loud enough for half the room to hear. He's 71 and in a wheelchair, you idiot, Janae shot back. Still, why you feeding some random white dude? You know they wouldn't do that for us. Janae stood up, her tray in her hands. Maybe that's exactly why I do it. Because I don't want to be like the people who wouldn't help us. She walked away before Marcus could respond. But his words stung. Not because she believed them, but because part of her wondered if she was being naive. If she was giving to someone who wouldn't give back. That afternoon, she found out. Janae was walking home from school when she saw 3 men standing outside James's house. Big men, white, wearing leather jackets. One of them was yelling. You owe Dante $800, old man. He don't care about your sob story. James was in his wheelchair on the porch, his hands raised. I told Dante I'd get it to him when my benefits came through. 2 more weeks. Dante, don't wait. You got until Friday, or we're taking your shit. The man kicked James's wheelchair. Not hard enough to tip it, but hard enough to make a point. Janae's feet moved before her brain caught up. Hey! She ran across the street. Leave him alone. All 3 men turned. One of them laughed. Who's this? Your little girlfriend? She's a kid, James said urgently. She's got nothing to do with this. Janae, go home. I'm calling the police, Janae said, pulling out her phone. The man who'd kicked the wheelchair stepped toward her. Put that away, little girl, before you get hurt. Touch her and I'll kill you. James's voice went cold. It was a different voice than Janae had ever heard from him. A voice that had given orders in dark places. I don't care what happens to me. You touch her, and I promise you won't walk away. The man stopped. Something in James's eyes made him reconsider. Friday, the man said finally. 800 or we're coming back. They left. Janae stood shaking in the middle of the street. James wheeled down the ramp. Janae, you shouldn't have done that. Who were they? Loan sharks. I borrowed money last year when things got bad. Stupid decision. He rubbed his face. Don't worry about it. I'll handle it. How? You don't have $800. I'll figure something out. But Janae could see he had no idea how. That night, she counted the money in her babysitting envelope. $340. Not even half. She asked Grandma Ruth if they had any extra. Baby, what's this about? Janae explained about the men, about the debt, about Friday. Grandma Ruth's face went hard. Those men threatened you? They threatened Mr. James. I just got in the way. Same thing. Grandma Ruth pulled out their emergency envelope from the flour canister. $200. This is all we have until I get paid Friday. Grandma, we can't. That's for emergencies. This is an emergency, baby. But even with this, we're short. Janae thought about it all night. The next morning, instead of going straight to James's house, she went door to door in the neighborhood. Mrs. Chin answered first. Janae? You okay? Mrs. Chin, can I ask you something? By lunchtime, Janae had knocked on 23 doors. Some people said no. Some people didn't answer. But some people did help. Mrs. Chin gave $20. Mr. Rodriguez from the corner store gave $40. The pastor from the church Grandma Ruth attended gave $50. Piece by piece, dollar by dollar, the neighborhood came together. By Thursday evening, Janae had $790. She brought it to James in a white envelope. He opened it, saw the cash, and his face went white. Where did you get this? Around. Janae Williams, did you steal this money? No. I asked people. The neighborhood helped. James stared at the bills, then at her. You went door to door for me? You needed help. You shouldn't have done this. This is too much. Mr. James, you said the most important thing is knowing who has your back. I got your back. He started crying again. I don't deserve this. That's not for you to decide. It's already done. The next day, when the loan sharks came back, James paid them in full. Janae watched from her porch across the street as they counted the money and left. James wheeled over to her house afterward. Grandma Ruth was home, and she came out to meet him. Ma'am, James said, his voice formal, I need to thank you for raising a daughter who puts herself at risk for an old fool like me. Granddaughter, Grandma Ruth corrected gently. And she learned it from watching me try to do right by people. Still, what she did, his voice broke. I've been in war zones. I've seen trained soldiers freeze under fire. But your granddaughter ran toward danger to protect me. That takes a kind of courage you can't teach. Grandma Ruth looked at Janae with pride. She's special. Always has been. James reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. This came in the mail today. My back pay from the V, $12,000. I want to pay back everyone who helped. With interest. That's not necessary, Grandma Ruth said. It's extremely necessary. And there's something else. He looked at Janae. I want to set up an education fund. For college. Janae's breath caught. Mr. James, no. Just. You saved my life twice now. Once with breakfast, once with belief. Let me do this. But you need that money. I need to matter again more than I need money. And you make me matter, kiddo. Please, let me do this. Grandma Ruth and Janae looked at each other. Finally, Grandma Ruth nodded. On one condition, she said. You have dinner with us. Every Sunday. Family dinner. James's eyes filled. I'd be honored. Sunday dinners became tradition. James would wheel across the street every week and they'd eat together. Pot roast or chicken, greens, cornbread. James would tell stories, making Janae laugh with tales about his drill sergeant or the time he accidentally insulted a general. Slowly, he told them more about his past. His wife had left him 5 years after he got back from his last deployment. She tried to make it work, but he was angry all the time, drinking too much, refusing therapy. She took their daughter to Portland and remarried. Do you talk to your daughter? Janae asked one Sunday. Haven't in 12 years. She's 34 now. Has kids I've never met. His face was heavy with regret. I was a terrible father when she needed me most. Maybe it's not too late, Janae said. Kiddo, some bridges burn too hot to rebuild. But Janae couldn't let it go. The next week, she asked for his daughter's name. Sarah Pritchard Monroe. It took 40 minutes of internet searching at the library, but Janae found her. A Facebook profile, a woman who looked like James around the eyes. Janae sent a message. Hi, my name is Janae Williams. I'm friends with your father, James Pritchard. I think he really wants to talk to you, but he's afraid. Would you be willing to give him a chance? She didn't expect a response. But 3 days later, Sarah replied, Is he still drinking? Janae wrote back, No. He's sober. He's in a wheelchair. He's alone. But he's trying to be better. Sarah's response came the next morning. Give me his phone number. I'll call him. What happens after that depends on him. Janae brought James his breakfast that Thursday and handed him a piece of paper with a phone number on it. What's this? He asked. Your daughter's number. She's waiting for you to call. James went completely still. The coffee mug in his hand started shaking. How did you? I found her online. I told her you were different now. She said she'd give you one chance. Janae, you had no right to do that. I know. But I did it anyway. James stared at the number. What if she hates me? What if she doesn't? I don't know what to say to her. Start with, I'm sorry. Then listen. That night, Grandma Ruth told Janae that James had called. They'd talked for 3 hours. He'd cried through most of it. Sarah had cried too. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. The next Sunday, James showed Janae a picture on his phone. His daughter, his 2 grandchildren. Sarah had sent it that morning with a message. The kids want to meet their grandpa. Can we visit next month? James's hands were shaking so hard he could barely hold the phone. She's giving me a second chance. You deserve it, Janae said. Only because you wouldn't let me give up. Summer came. School ended. Janae picked up more babysitting jobs, saving for the fall semester. James's daughter visited in July, stayed for 3 days. The reunion was awkward at first, but by the end, Sarah was hugging her father goodbye with tears in her eyes. You're really different, Dad, she'd said. I don't know what happened, but keep doing it. After she left, James sat on his porch and told Janae the truth. You happened. You reminded me I was worth saving. You were always worth saving, Mr. James. You just couldn't see it. That's because nobody was looking at me the way you look at people. Like we matter. By August, James's house was different. He'd used some of his back pay to fix the porch, paint the exterior, get the electricity running properly. The neighborhood noticed. People started waving to him. Mrs. Chen brought him leftovers sometimes. Mr. Rodriguez hired him to do bookkeeping for the corner store, something James could do from home. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was living. And then, one morning in early October, everything changed. Janae brought breakfast as usual. James was on the porch, but he looked different. His breathing was labored. Mr. James? Are you okay? Just tired, kiddo. Didn't sleep well. But something was wrong. Janae could feel it. Let me call Grandma. She can check you out. I'm fine. Don't worry her. Mr. James. Janae, I'm okay. Promise. But he wasn't. Over the next week, he got worse. More tired. More pale. He tried to hide it, but Janae wasn't fooled. Finally, she told Grandma Ruth. Her grandmother came over, took one look at James, and called an ambulance. I don't need a hospital, James protested weakly. Hush, Grandma Ruth said firmly. You're going. At the hospital, they found it. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. It had spread to his liver, his lungs. The doctor said 6 months, maybe less. There was treatment, but it would only buy time, not cure him. James refused at first. I'm not spending my last months sick from chemo. But Janae wouldn't let him quit. You have a daughter who just found you again. Grandkids who need to know their grandpa. You don't get to give up now. He started treatment. It was brutal. He lost weight, lost his hair, spent days too weak to get out of bed. But Sarah came to stay. She moved into his house, brought the kids. They filled that empty home with noise and life. Janae visited every day after school. Sometimes James was too sick to eat the breakfast she brought. On those days, she'd just sit with him, hold his scarred hand, and talk about nothing and everything. You know what I regret most? James said one afternoon in November. He was in bed, and 4 drip feeding medication into his arm. Not the deployments. Not the marriage ending. I regret the years I spent invisible. The years I thought nobody cared whether I lived or died. I care, Janae said. I know you do, kiddo. That's why these last months have been the best of my life. Because I wasn't invisible anymore. He died on a Tuesday morning in early December. Janae had brought breakfast, but he was already gone by the time she got there. Sarah was sitting beside his bed, holding his hand, crying quietly. He went peacefully, Sarah said. In his sleep. The way he wanted. Janae stood in the doorway, the breakfast container still in her hands, and felt her heart break. The funeral was the following Saturday. Janae expected maybe 20 people. Instead, over 200 showed up. Veterans in dress uniforms. People from the neighborhood. Mrs. Chin, Mr. Rodriguez, the pastor, families Janae had asked for help when James needed it. They all came. And at the front of the chapel, a flag-draped coffin with full military honors. A general gave the eulogy. General Marcus Whitfield, a black man in his 60s with 4 stars on his shoulders. James Pritchard, he began, was one of the finest soldiers I ever commanded. He flew missions nobody knows about, saved lives nobody can acknowledge, sacrificed in ways that remain classified to this day. He paused, looking at the crowd. When he retired, our system failed him. We lost track of him. We let him fall through the cracks. And he suffered alone for nearly 2 decades because of our failure. The general's voice grew thick. But someone didn't fail him. A 14-year-old girl named Janae Williams saw him when the rest of us were blind. She fed him when he was hungry. She fought for him when he couldn't fight for himself. She gave him back his humanity when this country had taken it away. He looked directly at Janae, sitting in the front row with Grandma Ruth. Colonel Pritchard left instructions. Before he died, he made me promise to tell this story, to make sure everyone knew what this young woman did. And he left something for her. After the service, General Whitfield approached Janae. He handed her an envelope. Inside was a letter in James's handwriting. It was dated 2 weeks before he died. Dear Janae, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I want you to know something. You saved my life. Not just with breakfast or bills or advocacy. You saved my life by seeing me as human when I'd forgotten how to see myself that way. I spent 30 years in the Army, earned medals, led men into combat, did things I'm proud of and things I'm ashamed of. But the thing I'm most proud of is being your friend. You taught me what real courage looks like. It's not running into gunfire. It's running toward someone everyone else walks past. I've set up a trust fund for your education. $50,000. It should cover college, books, living expenses. I know you'll do something extraordinary with your life because you've already done extraordinary things. But more than money, I'm leaving you something else. A legacy. My military file is being declassified in parts. Things I can't tell you while I'm alive, you'll learn after I'm gone. When you do, I want you to understand something. Every mission I flew, every person I saved, every risk I took, I did it believing I was serving a country worth fighting for. And in my darkest times, when I stopped believing that, you proved I was right all along. Not because of the government or the system or the flag. Because of people like you. People who choose kindness when cruelty would be easier. People who see the invisible. People who remember that we're all human, all worthy, all deserving of dignity. You are that country worth fighting for, Janae. Keep being exactly who you are. Love, Colonel James Pritchard. Janae read the letter 3 times before she could breathe. Grandma Ruth wrapped her in a hug while she cried. General Whitfield waited patiently. When Janae finally looked up, he spoke again. The colonel also left instructions for this. He gestured to someone behind him. 6 soldiers came forward, carrying a folded American flag. They presented it to Janae with full honors. On behalf of the President of the United States and a grateful nation, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for Colonel Pritchard's service. Janae took the flag with shaking hands. It was heavier than she expected. There's one more thing, General Whitfield said. Can you come with me? There's something the colonel wanted you to see. They drove in a military convoy to a building Janae didn't recognize. Government facility, high security. General Whitfield led her through corridors that required fingerprint scans and ID checks. They entered a room filled with photographs. Military operations, helicopters, soldiers in desert camouflage. This is the classified archive, Whitfield explained. Colonel Pritchard's complete service record. Most of it is still redacted, but we've declassified enough to show you who he really was. He pointed to a photograph. James, 30 years younger, standing beside a helicopter. Behind him, 3 senators. 1991, Desert Storm. The colonel flew into hostile territory to extract these senators when their transport was shot down. Enemy forces closing in. He landed in a hot zone, under fire, got them out with minutes to spare. Another photo. James receiving a medal from a President Genet recognized from history books. 1995, Bosnia. The colonel evacuated 47 civilians from a massacre zone. Made 4 trips in and out. Should have been killed a dozen times. Saved every single person. More photos. More stories. Each one revealing a man who'd risked everything, sacrificed everything, saved hundreds of lives. The military lost him after he retired, Whitfield said. And when we found him again, it was because of you. Because you sent an email to his daughter, and she contacted us trying to get him better VA care. He turned to face Genet. You did something nobody in the entire Department of Defense could do. You made James Pritchard believe his life still mattered. And because of that, he reconnected with his daughter. Got to meet his grandchildren. Spent his final months surrounded by love instead of dying alone in that house. Genet's tears were falling freely now. I just brought him breakfast. You brought him more than breakfast. You brought him back to life. General Whitfield pulled out another document. The Army is establishing a new program. The James Pritchard Memorial Initiative. We're training VA caseworkers specifically to find veterans with classified service records who've fallen through the cracks. We're allocating $10 million to make sure what happened to the colonel never happens again. He handed Genet the document. Her name was on it. Community Advisor. We want you to help design this program, Whitfield said. Work with us to make sure veterans are seen, are heard, are treated as human beings. You've already shown us how. Now we need you to teach us. Genet looked at the document, at the photographs of James on the walls, at the general waiting for her answer. She thought about the morning she'd first crossed the street with a container of eggs. How she'd almost talked herself out of it. How easily she could have walked past like everyone else. Yes, she said finally. I'll help. 6 months later, Genet stood in front of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee. She was 15 now, wearing a suit that Sarah Pritchard had bought for her. Grandma Ruth sat in the front row, beaming with pride. Members of the committee, Genet began, her voice steady despite her nerves. My name is Genet Williams. I'm a sophomore at Oakland Tech, and I want to tell you about my friend, Colonel James Pritchard. She told them everything. The breakfast, the loan sharks, the daughter, the cancer, the trust fund, the love. The colonel told me that the most important thing in combat is knowing who has your back, she said. But it works both ways. He had my back too. He taught me that rank doesn't measure worth. That service doesn't end when you take off the uniform. That every person, no matter how invisible they seem, has a story worth hearing. She looked at the senators. Some were wiping their eyes. The James Pritchard Memorial Initiative has found 83 veterans so far. Veterans who were lost in the system. Who were homeless, hungry, forgotten. We've connected them to benefits, to housing, to family. We've saved lives. She paused. But we can do more. Colonel Pritchard shouldn't have needed a 14-year-old to save him. The system should have caught him before he ever ended up in that wheelchair on that porch. Senator Patricia Hammond, chair of the committee, leaned forward. What do you need from us, Miss Williams? Funding for 200 case workers nationwide. Training programs. Database improvements. And accountability. When a veteran falls through the cracks, someone should answer for why. The hearing lasted 2 hours. By the end, Senator Hammond was drafting legislation. The Pritchard Act passed 6 months later with bipartisan support. $50 million in funding. New protocols for tracking classified veterans. Mandatory reviews for anyone who hadn't claimed benefits in 2 years. Genet testified at the signing ceremony. The President of the United States shook her hand. You're a remarkable young woman, the President said. I learned from a remarkable man, Genet replied. Present day. Genet Williams is 19 now, a sophomore at UC Berkeley studying social work. The trust fund James left her covers tuition, room, board, and books. She works part-time at a veterans support center, helping former soldiers navigate the VA system. Every morning, she wakes up at 5:30. Old habits die hard. She thinks about James every single day. About the way he smiled when she brought breakfast. About the stories he told. About the letter he left her. She visits his grave once a month. Sarah comes sometimes, brings the grandkids. They've become family. Real family. Sarah calls Janae, the sister Dad gave me. The James Pritchard Memorial Initiative has served over 2,000 veterans. The Pritchard Act has prevented countless others from falling through the cracks. Lives have been saved. Families have been reunited. But for Janae, it's not about the numbers. It's about the moments. Last week, she brought breakfast to a homeless veteran she'd noticed sleeping outside the BART station. An older black woman, maybe 60, with kind eyes and a purple heart pinned to her jacket. "Excuse me, ma'am," Janae said, holding out the container. "I made too much breakfast. Would you like some?" The woman stared at her, then at the food, then started crying. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'm Teresa. Teresa Bonds. Janae Williams." She pointed to the Veterans Center across the street. "I work right there. Come by later, and I'll help you get connected to services." "Why are you helping me?" Janae smiled. "Because someone taught me that small things aren't small." The convoy that showed up at Janae's house that Thursday morning in October wasn't just General Whitfield. It was 6 vehicles carrying 30 soldiers. Veterans who'd been found and saved through the Pritchard Initiative. They'd come to honor James's memory on the 1-year anniversary of his death. But more than that, they'd come to thank Janae. Each veteran presented her with a letter. Handwritten stories about how the program had found them, helped them, saved them. How they'd been invisible until someone looked. Grandma Ruth stood on the porch, watching, crying with pride. General Whitfield gave a short speech. The colonel always said that real courage isn't about running toward bullets. It's about running toward people everyone else walks past. "Miss Williams, you embody that courage every single day." He presented her with a medal. The Secretary of Defense Medal for Outstanding Public Service. The highest civilian award the Department of Defense can give. On behalf of a grateful nation, Whitfield said, "Thank you for teaching us to see." Janae accepted the medal. It was heavy and cold and didn't feel like it belonged to her. But then she thought about James. About his smile when she'd crossed the street with breakfast. About the way he'd called her kiddo with so much affection. About the legacy he'd left her. And she understood. This wasn't about her. It was about what he'd taught her. What she'd passed on. What would continue growing long after she was gone. Small things aren't small when they're multiplied by love. The James Pritchard Memorial Initiative has now served over 5,000 veterans across all 50 states. The program employs 200 caseworkers and has a 94% success rate in connecting found veterans to benefits and housing. Janae Williams graduated from UC Berkeley in 2029 with a degree in social work. She now directs the Pritchard Initiative nationally, overseeing policy implementation and training programs. Sarah Pritchard Monroe serves on the board of directors. Her children, now teenagers, volunteer at veteran centers every summer. Grandma Ruth retired from home health care in 2028. She lives comfortably, financially supported by Janae, and volunteers at the church where she's taught dozens of young people the same lesson she taught her granddaughter. "We may not have much, but we always share what we've got." The Pritchard Act has been amended 3 times, expanding protections and funding. Not a single classified veteran has been lost to the system since its implementation. In 2030, a documentary about Janae's story premiered at Sundance. The Breakfast Girl won the Audience Award and was shortlisted for an Oscar. Janae declined interview requests. She doesn't want to be famous. She wants veterans to be remembered. A foundation established in Colonel Pritchard's name now provides scholarships to 100 students annually. Students who demonstrate extraordinary compassion despite personal hardship. Students like Janae was. And every morning, somewhere in America, someone brings breakfast to someone who needs it. A sandwich, coffee, a moment of being seen. The legacy continues. Right now, there's someone near you who's invisible. someone struggling, someone who's given up hope that anyone will see them. You can't fix the whole system. You can't save everyone. But you can bring breakfast to one person. You can make one phone call. You can extend one hand. Small things aren't small when they change a life. What will you do today? If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to remember that kindness matters. Drop a comment about a time someone saw you when you felt invisible. And subscribe to hear more stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. At Black Voices Uncut, we don't polish away the struggle. We honor it. Because the truth is, most heroes don't wear capes or carry medals. They carry breakfast containers across the street. They look like Janae Williams. They might look like you.